Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very, very senior and accomplished professional from the UK, Mr. Maurice Bright, MBE. And for those of you who don't know MBE, it's Member of the Order of the British Empire. Maurice, welcome to the show.
Welcome to me. Thank you very much indeed. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Maurice is the chairman of the board of directors of Elstree Studios. He's a journalist by profession. He's a member of the British Academy of Film and Television Arts, and he's an author and a co-author of 10 books. So, Maurice, you seem to have had an amazing journey in multiple fields. Let me start by asking you to tell me about your journey.
Well, like many journeys in life, you don't always know at the beginning where you're going to end up or necessarily what road you're going to take. I'd always had an interest in journalism. I came from a family that was very interested in the news, but also I quite enjoyed performing as well. So I managed to go after school. Instead of going to university, I went to drama school, but it was a drama school that taught you also about the nuts and bolts of working behind the scenes. So that could be on a stage, but it could also be in a theatre and a newsroom and that kind of stuff, television and media as well. From that, I went into journalism, written journalism, and really got the bite for wanting to get out there and make sure we get our stories told. But journalism, as anyone will tell you, especially today when it's 24-hour news, can burn you out as an individual. And you can spend far too much time on the job, not enough time at home. And after one failed marriage, I thought, actually, what am I doing wrong here? And that is because I was making other people happy and not making myself happy. So I thought, well, what can I do? Take my skills and my passions and transfer them in another way. And I managed to get into making some documentaries on television about film history. I love British film, and that's why I love running a film studios and writing books about famous studios, Pinewood, Shepperton. You will have heard of these all over the world, I'm sure. And that's how I ended up really in the world I'm in now. It was the film and television side and also local government, because politics has always been my other passion. And I'm able to merge the two and do the two things and keep everyone happy and my children happy as well. So I think I'm getting there.
Wonderful, wonderful. I also wanted to ask you about what led to your being conferred with the prestigious MBE, and if you have the award with you, please show it to our viewers and listeners.
Well, an MBE, we have an honour system in the United Kingdom, which for people who have gone above and beyond their work or have performed something very special, and depending on what is being deemed as the level of speciality and the difference that people have made, they got offered an award. I never thought someone like myself would get one. I've been involved in local government now for 24 years, and I've been leader of my local council for 15 and a half years. And a few years ago, I got a letter through the post. It came in a brown envelope. I thought it was from the tax office, and I opened it up, and it said that on the recommendation of the Prime Minister, the Queen would like to confer you with an MBE, which is the Member of the Order of the British Empire. I can't pretend I did shed a tear. It was quite emotional for me. And a few months later, I went to Buckingham Palace, and the now King, he was Prince Charles, Prince of Wales then, conferred it upon me. And I do happen to have it here. Wonderful. And it's try and show it to you so it doesn't go out of focus.
I can see it now, yes.
I think you can just, there you go.
I can see it very clearly. Wow.
You can only wear it on very special occasions. And it goes quite nicely with my initials, MB. So now it's MBE. But as I've said, it was the first time anyone in my family had ever received one, and it was a complete surprise to me. And it's a deep honour. I'm humbled and privileged that people thought I was good enough to be nominated and also to have received one. So I'm deeply touched still after 5 years.
No, absolutely. I mean, to be recognized at the highest level in any country is big, and an MBE is a very, very prestigious award. Congratulations. So, Maurice, you also spoke about your being involved in politics. And when I was reading about you, you have been the longest serving leader of the Hertsmere Borough Council. What are some of the challenges that you have addressed?
I think I'm the longest serving leader because no one else wants to do it. It's okay. I come from a family of doers. I come from a local politics is in my family's blood. So my grandfather was actually the mayor of Hackney Borough Council. He was a Labour councillor, and that was in the 1950s. My father was also on Hackney Council in London, and he was a Liberal, and I was a child of the 1970s, and it so happens I'm a Conservative, and I've been here at Hertsmere, which is in Hertfordshire, since 1999, since the last century, and I became leader in 2007. There are many challenges for local people, for local governments. There were several-fold. Firstly, as we hit the first kind of big recession in 2008, 2009, central government made it quite clear that they were happy for local government to do more, but they were going to get less money from central government. And slowly but surely, all that money's gone. So we've had to discover ways of local councils becoming entrepreneurial. Now, historically, they just provide the services, they empty your bins and they make sure things are clean, etc. But suddenly, they're saying, if you want to survive, you've got to find ways of generating money. That was the first challenge. And we overcome that challenge in Hertsmere because we own a film and television studios. We own Elstree Studios. They're home to, well, currently The Crown is made at Elstree Studios, and lots of big films over the years have been made here too. So we own that. And what that means is that every penny of profit from the studios goes directly to the council to pay for local services. So that helps. That's one of the challenges we've had, and that's one that we've overcome. In recent times, of course, we had COVID pandemic. And what I couldn't tell people at the time is that I, as leader, was going down and meeting the managing director every day. And while people were in their homes, we were tasked by government to work out where we might have to put bodies, if there were too many bodies to bury, food, if we had to store food in local silos, etc. And that was a challenge, both on an emotional and a strategic basis. Strategically, we worked out what to do, but emotionally, you can't tell anyone you're doing that because you can't scaremonger them. And all I could do at home was get home at night in the evenings and put my arms around my children to give me some emotional comfort. So that was a big challenge too. And now post-COVID, post-pandemic, saying, well, how can we not just rebuild, but find other ways of running our towns? Because people's shopping moods have changed, people's living ways have changed, people going into the office has changed. So even though we're a small local authority, about 100,000 people within Hertfordshire, which is 1.2 million, you do have to do some targeted work to make sure, A, you're adapting with the changes, and B, working out that where we found that there were some inadequacies and inequities. So, for example, the poorer people, we now know that they suffer more in these situations than others. What can we do to help people who are worse off than ourselves? So there's a lot of challenges, and I think we're a very caring authority, and we're getting there.
Fantastic. But my next question to you is that how do you manage handling an elected office, running a studio, being a journalist, and doing so much social work?
Well, you see, I come from a studios and film and television industry background. It's all done with special effects. No, it's all, you know, it's all about, I'll tell you what, it's all about managing a diary. And one thing that COVID and the pandemic did do, it forced people forward 10, 20 years. So that the sorts of meetings and interviews we're having now are now being done on computers and on iPads and so on, and using the technology. So historically, if I had to go to a meeting in Hertfordshire, I'd have to drive for an hour, have an hour's meeting, then drive back again. That's 3 hours before I went to another meeting. Now I can just do meeting. Some you have to do in person, but you can actually achieve a lot more if you use the technology. My offices are very close to where I live. I've never been a 9-to-5 worker. As I said, I was a journalist. I used to sit in an edit suite all night. I can't do 9 to 5. I'm happy to work into the night. I'm not very good first thing in the mornings, but I'm very good at night. And it's just about juggling your diary. And also, as you get up the chain of authorities, as you become a leader, and I'm also deputy leader of Hertfordshire County Council, which is over 1 million people, you're in more control of your diary. So instead of people saying, you've got to be here at a certain time, they say, when can you make it, Councillor Bright? So actually, believe it or not, the more I have to do, the more time I'm able to find to do it. And they always say, don't they, if you want something done, ask a busy person.
Absolutely. Well said. Well said. Great response. Let's talk a little bit about Elstree Studios. Give me a little bit about the background. And I believe you had to do some major work to be able to save the studios in 2012.
Well, I mean, the history of the studios itself is as dramatic as anything that's ever been shot on its stages. I mean, Elstree Studios, going back, was the first British studios to have a talking picture. Alfred Hitchcock made Blackmail in 1929. And it was also the location for the first 3 Star Wars films in the late 1970s, and the first Indiana Jones films like Moby Dick, The Dam Busters, some really big films. And as I've said recently, we're making The Crown and lots of big television drama too. But over the years, the way that films and television has been produced, particularly film in this country, has changed. So it used to be that whoever owned a studio also owned a production company and also owned the cinemas that you put them in. But that all changed in the 1970s. And basically, people rent out space. It's like a hotel. They rent out space, they bring their production in, they film, they take their people in, and the next one goes in. Difficulty is, of course, that recessions come, and we'd had issues with the first Iraq-Kuwait war, sort of late 80s, early 90s. So the Americans stopped flying in, people didn't want to travel, they were concerned, and so we lost a lot of film industry business all over the country, not just at Elstree. And then the owners of Elstree tried to asset strip it and sell it off in the 90s. And the council then, just before, I was a journalist then, so I was on the Save the Studios campaign as a journalist. And the council then took the company to court, was trying to asset strip it, and in the end, the company went bankrupt, and we took over the studios. Now, suddenly you've got an empty, slightly decrepit studios, invested money, worked out that if we put money in, we could get money out, because it's not just a case of renting stages, but it brings wealth to the area. Shops open up, people come into the area to work and buy things, people come for audiences, for shows, and they spend money in town as well. And slowly but surely, during the 2000s, we started to pick ourselves up. So Who Wants to Be a Millionaire was originally started at Elstree, and in fact, all the countries that wanted to try it out before they put it on their television screens came and filmed their pilot shows at Elstree.
Wow.
From all over the world, in all people's different costumes and garb, and it was amazing to watch it. And we've moved on from there. Yes, in 2012-13, we got some grants to remove a big portion of land at the back, which had asbestos in it, because we're landlocked. We're only a small studio. It's very David and Goliath. And we're landlocked. So we couldn't just build outwards because there's homes around it. And we managed to clear another couple of acres. We just literally last year, for the first time in 25 years, with the help of the British government, put up 2 brand new stages called the Platinum Stages, named after the late Her Majesty the Queen. She was alive when we opened them as part of the Platinum Year, and 2 new stages. And what that does is, all the profits that it makes go directly back to the council. So it doesn't go to shareholders in banks and so on. The shareholders are the people of Hertsmere. And it pays for about 25% of the local taxation. So the local taxpayers are paying less from their local taxes by 25% because of the studios. And that's what goes back to being entrepreneurial 10, 20, 15 years ago. It's the council thinking, what can we do to keep Hertsmere going? And it's also a place of civic pride, because when you hear Oscar-winning films like The King's Speech and The Danish Girl are made there, then people think, wow, that's Elstree, and Elstree's a big brand. So you mix all those together, and you get a success story. But as you know, success stories don't happen overnight. You've got to bring a lot of people on board. And when you're talking about government and local government officers and the television and film industry, you couldn't be more diametrically opposed. One is very risk averse, and one is just, well, it's film and television. It'll be what it'll be. And it's me acting in the middle, if you like, as a conduit to be able to understand and to explain to people that you may not always get certainty around the booking, for example. It may take a while, but when it comes in, it reaps benefits. So I've been chairman of the board for 16 years, and we are now having the most successful studios that we've had. And, you know, we're almost 100 years old now as a studio, as one of the oldest in the country. And again, it's a great honor and a great pride to be able to make sure that not only are we keeping this great part of our heritage going, but that we're moving forward, because heritage and history doesn't pay the bills. We've got to be grown up about it. We've got to be quite literally set for the future.
How interesting. But tell me, is it unusual for a borough to own a studio which is generating profits, and the profits are going to actually serve the population, but through reducing the borough's expenses?
Yeah, it's a very, very good question. And actually, at one time, I think we were the only council in the country, and people were a little bit anxious, saying, "Oh, we're not sure if that will work." And of course, it has worked. I mean, the government has been very keen to ensure and ask councils if they want to be more entrepreneurial. But what they don't want, they don't want local government to be investing lots of money in businesses that go very badly wrong. So you've got to be very sensible. But this one was a no-brainer in that it had a huge brand name going back 70, 80 years. It was already a business which is short of capacity. There's so much film and television work going on in this country. Stages are always needed. And from an economic point of view, it's not like investing in a shopping centre or a car park and relying on car park charges. We get so much as a consequence. As I've said, we get new shops. I mean, our high street in the 80s and 90s was a ghost town because we had big shops opening up and multi-centres on either side. Now you can't get a shop for love nor money. Not every high street has that, and that's because we have the footfall that come through to work at the studios, to visit the studios, to come to be an audience at the studios. So the business model works for us, but we keep an eye on it. We have a board of directors that are made up of a few local councillors. What you don't want is locally elected officials running businesses, but we provide a strategic oversight, and we have other directors who come from the industry, and it's a success story, and we're very proud of it.
Absolutely. But what goes into running a studio that is so prominent, so eminent? I mean, I'm sure there are lots of challenges.
Well, the biggest challenges are the fact that the infrastructure, as I've said, the studios is nearly 100 years old, and it's not homogenized in the sense of we've got new stages, but we've also got some old stages, and we need to try and ensure that we're updating the facilities without closing too much at any one time, because we rely on the income to come in to pay towards the council. So it's basically putting out a strategy for development over 5 or 10 years. And also, being a small studios, you don't want to be doing too much noisy banging and drilling when there's someone next door trying to film. So it takes effort to make sure that we do that. But I think the biggest challenges are trying to understand that there's only about 15 people that run it.
Wow.
Because even though it's a 16-acre site and it brings in whatever it is, £5-6 million a year, as I've said, it's a hotel. Everyone brings who they need in and takes them out. So for us, the biggest challenges are making sure we can do the work in between, making sure we can provide the catering facilities so that they've got the right appropriate food and refreshment, and keeping everything running. So people need more broadband width. Why? Because historically, you used to film everything on film, and it went down to be developed in London, down in Soho, where they have the post-production facilities. Now it's all filmed on like hard drives, and they need to send it down. So you've got to make sure you've got the right technology. That's the biggest challenge. But again, with strategic planning, getting the right people in place, those decisions are taken before an emergency happens. The last thing you want is something to go down. And the final thing was that a shortage of electricity, believe it or not. So much drain on power. There's so much development going on in our area that we've had to put extra substations in as well. We're not the only people that have had to do this. But again, it's making sure you've got the right people in the right place at the right time.
Just incredible. What a story, Maurice. I mean, I'm sure you'll be writing a book on this if you haven't written already, and just come to your books. But 15 people delivering a big chunk of the expenses of the whole council. I mean, probably one of the most productive set of people you would have in too many parts of the world, so that's fantastic. Before I move to your books, one more question, and that is that you told me that The Crown was made there.
Yes.
Who Wants to Be a Millionaire was made there. What are some of the other more prominent series or films?
So when I say The Crown's made there, so it's based there. It has the interior set of Buckingham Palace. It has the exterior sets for Downing Street. At the moment, the south of France, various other pieces, the royal train, the royal plane, and they have the huge costume department as well. So it's based there, but it does go and film obviously around other parts of the world and the country, in fact. So as I've said, historically, we had Hitchcock's Blackmail. We had lots of, as I say, famous films of the 1950s that people know, Moby Dick with Gregory Peck, and The Dam Busters, great British war film. that they were literally churning out hundreds of these films. As I said, end of the 70s, when no one was interested at all in something called Star Wars, they thought, what success is this going to be? No one was interested. And it came to Elstree, the first 3 Star Wars, first 3 Indiana Jones. My funniest story is when about 2009, I was taken onto a set by the managing director, and I said, "What's this?" It looked like a little lounge, 1930s, some carpet, a bit threadbare. He said, "Oh, this is the lounge of a speech therapist called Lionel Logue, and it's for a small budget film, £9 million, called The King's Speech, and it's about a monarch that had a speech impediment." And I turned around and said, "Who the hell is going to want to go and see a film about a monarch with a speech impediment?" And of course, this £9 million went on to bring in 500 million.
I know.
It won 7 British Academy Awards and 4 Oscars. So my name may be bright, but I'm not always right. And it goes to show you can never tell. We do a lot of television as well for the home entertainment here in Great Britain. Lots of a couple of chat shows, quiz shows, because we have good television size stages. And when there's space, we also have we have something called Strictly Come Dancing, which I think's been also used, and that way has been that program has been sold to other countries to do. That is the biggest show on British entertainment on the BBC. That uses one of our big stages as well, because it likes to be on a film set. It's at a film stage, because film stages are bigger, they've got more lights nowadays with HD and ultra HD and huge television screens. Not like when you and I were young, it was like that. Now they're huge, and they love the vastness of it. So we get some very high-end light entertainment. And if you look at something like The Crown, high-end drama is spending as much as medium budget film now. So we've just literally built, as I said, 2 new stages, and Sky have taken them for 5 years for their film and their drama. So there's still a big appetite in this country for film and television.
Not only in the UK, but UK productions are popular all over the world. I know a lot of us in India watch a lot of UK productions. But Maurice, now moving on to your books, you are an author or a co-author of 10 books.
Yes.
What are the genres you normally write on, and what is your latest book?
So the genres has tended to be factual, but factual entertainment. So the histories, which won't surprise you, are film studios. So I've done the histories of Pinewood, Bonds, plus everything else. The histories of Shepperton Studios, which is where Ridley Scott and Tony Scott, they owned them for a while, Gladiator and big directors and producers like that. Elstree Studios, as well as some of this country's funniest film shows, like the Carry On films, Fawlty Towers for the BBC. And I did a great book on the world's longest running television comedy series, which was called Last of the Summer Wine, which actually ran for 37 years, 295 episodes, all written by the same person. It's not like in America where they're all written by banks of people. It's all written by the same person. And I wrote, and I appeared in several episodes as an extra,
Amazing.
I tell you what it is, I don't like to demystify the things that make us happy. I like to tell more stories and find lots of behind the scenes pictures. For me, my words are okay, but there's nothing that beats a behind the scenes story of one of your heroes having some fun. So if I've got a shot of Roger Moore having a laugh with Patrick Macnee when they're filming The Saint and the Avengers, or when Sean Connery goes to Elstree to visit Diane Cilento, who is his wife. He's of course just making Bond, but he's huge. He's coming to visit his wife who's making another film, because I think they're great. So I don't tend to demystify by saying, do you know what was going on behind the scenes? And there were secrets and scandals and that kind of thing, because most people watch television and film to escape that kind of thing, not to find out more about it. So for me, they've always been tributes, and they're thank yous to the people who brought me a lot of joy as a child, watching television, before DVDs, before VHS, when if you missed it, that was it. You never had 100 channels. We had 3 channels. And so for me, it takes me back to that feeling on a Saturday when it's cold, in the afternoon in the winter, you wrap up, you have a cup of hot chocolate and watch a comedy film. So a lot of it was about that. It's my way of saying thank you to the people who brought me so much joy.
How amazing. How amazing. Thank you. My last question to you, Maurice, and this is for the thousands of people who will listen to our conversation. Based on your own amazing life and, such a diverse kind of set of interests that you've had, what would you say are 3 lessons that you would want our viewers and listeners to take away from your own life's learnings?
When you're very young, you have dreams. And they sometimes say, if your dreams aren't big enough and if they don't scare you, then they're not worth having. But when you're young, you have dreams, but you can't always, through life and not always through your own choice, manage to get those dreams to become a reality. You have to learn to adapt, you have to learn to compromise, and you have to learn to accept that the whole of life experience is important, that we are the sum of the parts that come before us. And we can't always be in control of our life. So where we have to compromise, fine, but always look to say there's always something I want to do, and try your utmost. Because I believe if you're positive enough about it and you're kind enough to other people, and that's another thing, always be kind to other people along the way, because there are people I met when I was like 17, 18, 19, who to this day, we remain good friends because they helped me and I've helped them. I think it's about never lose your humanity. Don't let life grind you down. Life can be very grinding and it can be very difficult, and people's lives can be tough. But don't lose your humanity. People say you become thick-skinned. Don't become thick-skinned. You then look the way that you feel. Don't become bitter about life. And I think the most important thing is to make sure that you've got love in your life, whether it be with a partner, or a spouse, but particularly with your children. And if you've made mistakes, don't put those mistakes onto your children. Try and work out without forcing them tell them what to do. Try and help guide them. Don't try and live your life through them. And I think if you can do all those things together, you've got a jolly good chance of saying at the end of it, I did the very best I could. Absolutely. And I'm quite happy enough with that.
Well said, well said. And on that note, Maurice, and your amazing lessons, dream big, but adapt, compromise, and accept wherever it's necessary. Be kind to people. Never lose your own humanity, and always have love in your life. Thank you so much for talking to me about your incredible journey from being a journalist to being a politician to chairing the board of Elstree Studios. Thank you for taking me almost down memory lane as far as Elstree Studios are concerned, and talking about some amazing productions that I have watched and I've been very fond of. So many of them I've watched. And thank you also for talking to me about your own books. Thank you again, and good luck to you.
Well, thank you very much. And as we say from Star Wars and Elstree Studios, may the force be with you. Absolutely. Thank you, Ash. It's been lovely. Thank you very much.
Thank you again. Thank you for listening to The Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for The Brand Called You.